Hi, welcome to the Go Higher Frequency Astrology channel. My name is Suzanne. Join me as I investigate how the monthly cycles are progressing with a focus on how we can channel our energies more productively. Today, I'm going to be talking about the upcoming full moon in Aries happening on October the 6th. I'll be starting with a general overview of the cycle, and then I'll be delineating a few charts, one located in Washington, D.C. I'm going to be analyzing the President and Putin's chart, and I'm going to be analyzing the chart around the Sibley Chart wheel. I've included timestamps below, so feel free to jump to the parts that most interest you. Well, the chaos in the world has been escalating quite a bit since the eclipse, with Pluto still out of bounds and Saturn re-entering the gate of crisis on September the 25th, where it will remain until late January. Most people are now fully recognizing we are in a major crisis in the United States. And this full moon in Aries, called the Warrior's Moon by Raven Caldera, is likely to further fuel the flame of this growing chaos. On the Warrior's Moon, we fight for what we believe in. This is a lone battle, and it is especially effective if we are fighting with no approval from others, and perhaps even in spite of their disapproval. Such battles need to be fought as if there is no audience, just the warrior and the enemy, and the innocents who must not be trampled, something that the warrior often forgets. The Warrior's Moon is also a time of grappling with the aforementioned demons and learning patience. At this particular degree, there can be an over-reliance on the need for protection that can be obsessed with the details of planning at the expense of action. There can be an insecurity with one's abilities to ultimately persevere in this fight. This full moon is related to the April 2024 new moon eclipse and is the first of a series of full moons through next April that are between 12 and 14 degrees. If you have any planets that are close to these degrees, this full moon is likely to affect you more personally. You may see something that you started during the April 2024 new moon eclipse culminating during this full moon. So what fears are holding you back from fighting for what you believe in? What are you obsessing about that you need to let go of so you can move forward? I know for me, I have my natal Eris conjunct Juno at 12 degrees of Aries. And if you don't know what the asteroid Eris is, it symbolizes discord. And the asteroid Juno symbolizes partnership. So when I found this out, I was like, what? Does this mean that I'm attracted to discord? I mean, I cannot deny that discord has been a part of my daily life for as long as I remember. But in my mind, I was always trying to escape it. And to me, I don't think you can escape your natural patterns, the patterns that you came in here with. But they're here to help you evolve in some way, so you can transmute them. You can use those energies to work for you rather than against you. And I just had my Chiron return last year. And the theme of my Chiron, it's in Aries as well, and it's about gathering strength through adversity. So what I've started to learn is that I can't escape it. It's a natural part of who I am. I need to lean into it. I need to make this work for me rather than against me. Instead of escaping, I have learned that I need to open myself up to these experiences. It's the only way I can learn how to better wield my own personal power. Now, whenever I experience confrontations, I am learning to open rather than close. Rather than resisting, I now thank the universe for showing me something I needed to see. I am not saying that this is always easy, because it's not. But this practice has been revolutionary for me. And I already feel that I'm developing in some way my power, which has always been somewhat elusive for me. It was either really strong and it was used to cut off relationships in my life, or it was me just bumbling along and letting other people lead. So now I'm trying to find the balance in between. So tell me, what are you learning about yourself and others during this very challenging time? I'd love to hear more about what you're experiencing during this time. So leave me a comment below if you feel called to. So let's talk about this chart more specifically. This full moon placed in Washington, D.C. falls on the 5-2 left angle cross of Endeavor. This cross is about pushing through any limits or boundaries to get to the other side. It's about taking action to achieve one's goals. The cross is in the quarter of duality, so it involves karma with the other, or the themes of polarity. Both Putin and Ursula von der Leyen were born on different lines of this cross. This particular full moon degree fixes the expression of this energy to the detriment, which is an obsession with the planning phase at the expense of action. The 14th degree is a Taurus degree, so security is a higher priority than action. The ascendant is ruled by the full moon, which is intercepted in the 10th house. As I've reviewed in previous episodes, the Libra-Aries axis is directly related to the Mideast conflicts and the Russia-Ukrainian war. Interceptions typically define energy that is stifled or stuck in some way. And this full moon is stuck between the energies of Pisces on the midheaven and Taurus on the cusp of the 11th house. Pisces' traditional ruler is Jupiter, which sits in the first house of this chart. Jupiter at this degree is about the discovery of valuable information. Now, I want to focus on Jupiter for a minute because it's symbolically important to the relationship between the president and Putin. Jupiter at this moment is applying to the president's natal Saturn, and the president and Putin are connected by Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune. Jupiter will perfect its conjunction to the president's natal Saturn in the 11th house on October the 13th. This is the same day that Pluto stations direct. Remember, Pluto is currently out of bounds to the south, and the president's natal Pluto is out of bounds to the north. According to the research by Rosie Flynn, when Pluto goes out of bounds to the north, it's a time period when we see the rise of dictators. But when Pluto goes out of bounds to the south, there is an internal combustion, a revolution, and eventual power to the people. On October the 13th, when transiting Jupiter conjuncts the president's natal Saturn, the sun will highlight his natal Jupiter in Libra in his second house in gate 57, which is applying to a square to his natal Saturn in gate 62. So there will be a double Jupiter-Saturn square, which will be highlighted by the sun. This describes an inconsistency or restless moodiness, which promotes growth, and at the same time, a happy solitude with the dissolution of an engagement. Putin's Saturn-Neptune conjuncts the president's natal Jupiter in gate 57. You can see the potential of amplified deception or egoism in this connection. And Uranus is sitting here in gate 20, connecting gate 57, which is contributing to a disruption to the current status quo of their relationship. Right after Uranus moved into gate 20 in July, the president met with Putin in Alaska. And at first, everything appeared to be rosy. And the president really did believe that he was going to convince Putin to come to the negotiating table, but that didn't happen. On October the 13th, Venus will also be at the eclipse degree, or 29 degrees of Virgo. And Charlie Kirk had his own Venus conjunct this eclipse. Symbolically, Venus is important in the president's chart, as it conjuncts his natal Saturn. He has karmic themes with women, family, relationships, and money. And Putin's own Venus in gate 44 connects the president's south node and moon in gate 26. Putin's Venus is in a line describing potential manipulation of inferior forces. So what does this mean? Well, we recently found out that the president has had a complete about face to his concept of Putin and his involvement in the war, and also his relationship with Putin. He now seemingly seems to admit that he does not have any leeway in bringing Putin to the negotiating table. It seems like that right now. Now, I'm not sure if that will hold. A lot of people are speculating about his back and forth, but I do think there's been a shift. And I do think October 13th will be a big day. We already know that Putin has been provoking the NATO countries to see if they will respond to its provocations. And there's been kind of an escalation from the United States. I think today I saw some news come out that Hegseth was calling a meeting from the top military leaders of the NATO alliance. So I can imagine as we move into October, we'll see further developments. I am going to be watching October 13th as being a big day in the escalation of what's going to happen moving forward. So let's come back to this full moon chart to talk about Venus. Taurus, on the cusp of the 11th house, is ruled by Venus in Virgo, conjunct the South Node in the 3rd house of this chart. Venus at this degree is about maintaining harmonic relationships with one's oppressor. The themes also point to the responsibility of someone in a leadership position, someone who comes from wealth. It's now separating from the South Node, so there's something related to these themes that we are gaining new insights about before we move forward. And Venus's ruler Mercury is now at the degree where Mars was during the Libra ingress. And the Libra ingress was about the time of that NATO meeting where the president attended. I think he attended a couple of days later. Mercury is now applying to a closing square to Pluto and is the apex of a yod or a finger of God between Uranus and Neptune. And Mercury in this line is about maintaining or not the consistency of our values. In its negative expression, that's where Mars was in the previous chart. It can be about rebelling against the values that have previously brought us success. Now, with the closing Mercury square to Pluto, there is a psychological integration of our struggle with the limitations of our country's ability to wield monetary power over others. We are starting to see those limitations, and there's a disconnect between the words spoken and the reality of the limitations we are starting to see all around us. The finger of God points to the need to adjust to the chaos that is being surfaced from the dogmatists and the reality of the crisis we are now in because of the deception of certain people in power. The reality of this deception is more visible with Neptune and Saturn conjunct the midheaven. Both the moon and Mercury are ruled by Mars and Scorpio in the 5th house in gate 44, hanging off the splenic system, pointing to gate 26, hanging off the ego. Mars connects with Putin's Venus in gate 44, connecting to the president's South Node and moon in gate 26. It describes the ability to recognize the threat of interference and to prepare for its effects. Mars is the final dispositor of this chart, stronger in its malefic nature because it is in its own domicile. But in gate 44, it's more about preparation. It's an alertness to defend itself against outside threats. This full moon pattern indicates to me a turning point in the current conflicts, both at home and abroad. There is a movement away from harmonic appeasement, but the warrior energy present in this full moon is still somewhat stifled by the need for security over action. I see a bigger shift happening between the new moon in Libra later this month and the full moon in Scorpio in early November. When you look at this full moon around the Sibley chart, We see that the sun is highlighting the country's natal Saturn in Libra in the 10th house. With Juno conjunct Saturn and Venus, Saturn's ruler in Cancer in the 7th, you can see our nation also has karma around the themes of money, women, family, and relationships. Meanwhile, transiting Venus is applying to a conjunction with Neptune in the 9th, which highlights the themes of our spiritual beliefs, law and order, and our alliances with other countries. And transiting Jupiter is highlighting our retrograde Mercury in the 8th house. In the Sibley chart, Pisces and Virgo are intercepted in the 3rd, 9th house axis, connecting the Jupiter and Mercury conjunction. It highlights the theme of our responsibilities to our neighbors, our contracts and debts to other nations, the rule of law, our beliefs, and our current divisive environment. Saturn is exalted in Libra. It highlights fairness and justice to the rule of law. You can see our leadership position here, which is why it's been so disconcerting to see the opposite play out in our country. But with the full moon highlighting Saturn, we are getting a sneak peek at the Saturn opposition coming in mid-2027. Saturn entering Aries activated this coming opposition. And as it applies closer to the opposition, we will see more confrontations to our leadership in these areas. The last time we experienced a Saturn opposition was in 1998, and some point to this opposition as the lead up to 9/11. So I think a lot more people are starting to wake up that we cannot just sit around and try to maintain harmony with what's going on in our country. We really have to face our fears and take right action. So I hope you can face your fears and maintain your individuality while fighting for what you believe in. Face your fears, release what's holding you back, and let's move forward together.